What up, YouTube? So, I recently read this book called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. This is autobiography written a year before he died of a drug overdose. And it made me think about a lot of things in life, in healthcare, and mental health care, and philosophically in general about the modern era. So, Matthew Perry, he was born 10 years before me in 1969. And yeah, for those who don't know him, he was most famous for being on Friends, which I never really watched. I know a lot of people watched it. I just didn't find it very relatable. And because I didn't really watch, I don't really remember his character, but evidently his character is kind of like an awkward, self-deprecating goofball type. And yeah, reading the book did make me want to rewatch the whole 9 yards. I remember seeing that in the theater back in 2000, evidently. So yeah, I would rewatch that. Seems like he kind of always plays the same type of characters. And yeah, there's just a lot of themes, a lot of, obviously the book is about him personally, but there's just a lot of kind of societal themes. And what I find interesting is all the assumptions that were socially reinforced in his life, that I don't want to say the assumptions led to his demise, because finding a cause of really anything, but especially a human being's life, and their ultimate end is just, oh my God, you're missing it. The cat is peeking out of the window of this little toy house. So cute. Yeah, but I'll get to the crux of it straight off the bat. So basically, he had a belief reinforced by AA, otherwise known as Alcoholics Anonymous, and also reinforced by, evidently, according to him, the American Medical Association since the 1970s, if I recall correctly, that addiction is a disease. And I do think that this idea really led him to his death. And, Alcoholics Anonymous is also, well, originally, according to what's his name, John Wilson, the guy who founded AA, he actually explicitly did not make the claim that alcoholism is a disease. But regardless of that, it's written into the 12 steps. The first step is that you're powerless. I am powerless over alcohol or drugs or food or sex or whatever. That, AA has really franchised itself and branched out into many different directions, many different avenues of addiction. There's probably nowadays, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an internet addict or even YouTube addicts. I mean, addiction is just become, it's really saturated the modern parlance, and it's an interesting word, right? It implies lack of control. And anyway, so the first step is I'm powerless over alcohol in this instance. And the second one is basically daddy save me. In other words, I have to give my will over to a higher power, or God as I know him, or understand him, in order to be saved. So it's kind of disgusting, really. If I can give my honest visceral reaction, which I can because it's my channel. I mean, it's just gross, right? Like, I'll get like deep here, but I mean, if you want to argue that there's no free will, like, I'm on board with you. I mean, we're physical creatures. I mean, we're physical, period, right? Like the rain dropping from the sky, like the cats playing right in front of me, like the winds, like the grass growing. I mean, we're the most complex thing we've ever discovered, human beings, the human brain, but we're still subject to physical laws. And so, yeah, the interesting dance that modern psychology does, and I notice this in mental health in general and making excuses for people who have a disorder. You know, some people are in control of themselves, some people are not in control of themselves. You know, a baby is clearly not in control of itself, but all of a sudden, I do understand motorcycles are fun, but and they kind of have to be loud, otherwise cars will hit them. Is interesting with regard to my own brain, and this is something I really want to work on: the ability to not get distracted, to not viscerally react, to be able to stay on task. And this is going to be difficult for some people over others, but it's nothing I would ever say I'm powerless over. So, oh yeah, on with regards to free will, I mean, we're probably powerless. We're probably, I mean, unless there's some really secret thing that I don't know about, just based on my experience, just based on witnessing other people. And it's given me a bit of peace, right? It's I'm not going to say it's cured my resentments of other people and their actions and their behavior, but like people just can't help themselves, you know? And but because of this selective powerlessness thing that Matthew Perry got in his head, he felt uniquely weak and uniquely, you know, he many times in the book he was like, oh, I partied with Bruce Willis and Bruce Willis did all these drugs and drunk and drinks, but he could stop and I couldn't stop, and woe is me and no one can understand me, and all these therapists. And man, this guy got preyed upon hard, like proper preyed upon hard. The last thing that was said about him, you know, is brought up in court because they prosecuted the drug dealers who sold him the ketamine that he ultimately killed. That ultimately killed him. And one of the things said about him was like, how much money? I wonder how much money we can get out of this moron. And it's a sad thing to have said about you. But I mean, the whole theme of the book is desperation and weakness and grasping. Um, Tanya, I don't know how to say it, as the Buddha would say, that this thirst for relief external to yourself, which of course is something we all experience. And I think the reason the book affected me so much is because, I don't know, neediness and my own kind of like human desire for connection, for love, for anything external, really, even for food, for you know, I've just always wanted to master myself, and I've always wanted to put a little bit of distance between, you know, my needs and reality. I just always wanted to master them. I think it's just I don't want to say it's a masculine drive, because I'm sure all people have it, but I mean, I think of it, I guess, in my head for whatever reason as a masculine drive. You know, you think of like monks who forego sex and eat once a day and go up in the hills and you know, basically put themselves into solitary confinement. It's interesting, right? The one of the worst punishments that you can do to someone is totally isolate them, lock them in a closet, lock them in a room, separate them from their fellow human beings. And yet monks will do that voluntarily and claim that it provides them the greatest connection. It's kind of like the opposite of the internet, if you think about it. You know, being in a hut in the mountains, isolated from everyone, is like the opposite of being on your phone, you know, scrolling on whatever social media platform is feeding you just constant, this person said this person did that, just like social information. Um, and yet that behavior like demonstrably makes people more lonely and disconnected, and deliberately isolating yourself can make people feel more connected than they've ever felt, you know, at a party talking to a million people, you know, seeking out relationships, etc. But I digress. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, like, it's very admirable for Matthew Perry to be like, look at me, I'm weak, look at me. I mean, the whole book is like, look at me, I'm weak. And it's kind of a like a flip from, I mean, yeah, obviously I've been only around since 79 and only kind of thinking about things since, well, I'm sure I was thinking about stuff as a 3-year-old, but you know, I've been kind of conscious. I've had active minds for like, let's say 40 years, like since I was 6. Although, to draw a definitive line is a bit stupid and reductive and like nonsense. But, and really, yeah, in the last 20 years, I feel like one's 40s is an interesting time because you start thinking about kind of the era you're in. I remember being not being done with college, university, but just dropping out and feeling bad about myself. But I feel like when you're young, you just kind of go. You just go, go, go. You're like, this is what life is. This is what society is. This is what men, women, power, money, success. I mean, at least for me, I didn't. There were questions. There was always philosophical questions, but I don't know. The more experience you have, the more your beliefs can kind of be stomped on, and which is how you learn. Um, yeah, obviously with training, I mean the ideal of education, right, is I mean the like a definition of wisdom to me, right, is to be able to learn without suffering, to be able to learn without getting kicked in the head, to be able to have someone tell you fire is hot, and to get close enough to it, right, where you can feel that if you get any closer, you're really going to get hurt, and not need to get closer, and just to I mean, if people could just take each other's words for things, then everyone would be infinitely manipulatable. So we kind of have to see for ourselves. But I mean, yeah, learning without suffering, I feel like, is just the ideal of conscious existence, right? If you could learn pleasurably with the minimum of suffering. So anyway, back to Perry. So I didn't like the book, but I found it compelling. Um, I found like Perry like really really pathetic, and I found the book like very narcissistic. I kind of felt like there was no characters. The title had like friends, lovers, and addiction, right? The horrible, terrible thing, whatever. Um, but I didn't really get to feel like I was getting to know any other characters but him. He'd be like, "Oh, Bruce Willis is really cool. Like, I idolized him. Oh, this woman is so beautiful, um, and charming and sexy, and she like pulled me in, but I pushed her away. Um, and this one was so supportive when I was like in a coma. She was by my side. So there was adjectives, right? There was descriptors, but you didn't kind of feel the other characters. You felt his like self-loathing and his desire for escape and all his beliefs about I have to use, I'm an addict. And it's just really exhausting to read. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Um, yeah, yeah. These phones. I bought myself a MP3 player to like listen to music at the gym. It's just crazy how the phones are everything devices. Like, see, because of my age, I'm able to yeah, it's so hard to do when you're on call. I mean, this is the thing. Like, yeah, I would love to not have a phone someday, or to have a phone that I use like 1 hour a day. So difficult, so difficult. But I have to put my family first over my philosophical ramblings. So I will get back to this. Thank you for watching.